Welcome, dear friends, to a poignant tale of love, betrayal, and unexpected second chances. Enjoy the story. The bustling corridors of St. Mary's Hospital were alive with whispers and furtive glances. A new patient had arrived in the intensive care unit, and he was causing quite a stir among the nursing staff. "Have you seen him?" Nurse Jenny whispered to her colleague Sarah. "He looks like he just stepped out of a romance novel." Sarah nodded eagerly. "I know. Those long, wavy blonde locks. It's a shame he's unconscious. I bet he has the most dreamy eyes." As the two nurses giggled and speculated, Olivia Johnson, a 20-year-old orderly, pushed her cleaning cart past them. She rolled her eyes, used to the gossip that often swirled around attractive patients. Olivia had more pressing concerns, like getting through her grueling 24-hour shift. "All right, ladies," she said, her voice tinged with good-natured exasperation. "How about we focus on patient care instead of patient hair?" The nurses had the grace to look embarrassed as they scurried back to their stations. Olivia sighed and continued her rounds, tackling overflowing trash bins and scrubbing stubborn stains from the floor. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest, and it was helping her pay her way through nursing school. As the day wore on, Olivia found herself working harder than ever. A difficult delivery in the maternity ward left a mess that took hours to clean up. Then, an elderly patient had a particularly nasty bout of sickness, requiring Olivia to change linens and mop floors until her arms ached. By the time night fell, Olivia was dead on her feet. She leaned against her mop, her golden hair escaping from its tight bun, and surveyed the quiet hallway. Her eyes landed on the door to the ICU room where the mysterious blonde patient lay. "Just a quick peek," she murmured to herself. "I'll rest my eyes for 5 minutes, tops." Olivia quietly slipped into the room, sinking gratefully onto the small couch against the wall. The steady beep of the heart monitor and the soft whoosh of the ventilator created a soothing white noise. Before she knew it, her eyes had drifted closed. She wasn't sure how long she'd been asleep when a low groan startled her awake. Olivia's eyes flew open to find the patient awake and clearly in distress. "Oh my God!" she gasped, rushing to his bedside. "Sir, are you all right? Do you need me to call a nurse?" The man's blue eyes, hazy with pain and confusion, locked onto hers. "Water," he croaked. "Please." Olivia quickly filled a cup with water and helped him take a small sip. As she leaned over him, her hair fell forward, catching the dim light from the monitors. The man's eyes widened. "Are you an angel?" he whispered. Olivia couldn't help but laugh. "No, just an overworked orderly. My name's Olivia. And you are—" "Ethan," he replied, a small smile tugging at his lips despite the pain. "Ethan Blackwood." As Olivia helped Ethan get comfortable and paged the on-duty nurse, she couldn't help but feel a spark of connection. Little did she know, this chance encounter would change the course of her life forever. Over the next few weeks, Olivia found herself drawn to Ethan's room more and more often. She told herself it was just to check on his recovery, but deep down, she knew there was more to it. Ethan was charming, funny, and undeniably attractive. Plus, he seemed genuinely interested in her life and her dreams. "So you're studying to be a nurse?" Ethan asked one evening as Olivia changed his water pitcher. She nodded, a proud smile lighting up her face. "That's the plan. It's tough balancing work and school, but it'll be worth it in the end." Ethan reached out, catching her hand in his. "You're amazing, Olivia. I've never met anyone with such dedication and passion." Olivia felt her cheeks flush. "What about you? What do you do when you're not, in the hospital?" Ethan's eyes lit up. "I'm an artist, mostly paintings, but I dabble in sculpture too. Actually, I'd love to paint you sometime. Your hair, it's like spun gold. You'd make a perfect muse." The weeks flew by, and before Olivia knew it, Ethan was being discharged. As she helped him pack up his belongings, a wave of sadness washed over her. Would this be the last time she saw him? As if reading her mind, Ethan turned to her, his eyes serious. "Olivia, I know this might seem crazy, but I don't want this to end. Would you like to go out sometime? Once I'm back on my feet, of course." Olivia's heart soared. "I'd love that," she replied, unable to keep the grin off her face. From that moment on, Olivia and Ethan's relationship blossomed at lightning speed. Their first date led to a second, then a third. Soon they were spending every free moment together. Ethan's apartment became a second home to Olivia, filled with the smell of paint and the sound of laughter. Just 3 months after Ethan's release from the hospital, he dropped to one knee in front of one of his paintings, a stunning portrait of Olivia surrounded by golden light. "Olivia Johnson," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved me in more ways than one. Will you marry me?" Tears streaming down her face, Olivia nodded. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Their wedding was a small affair, held in a picturesque park just as spring was beginning to bloom. Olivia wore a simple white dress, her golden hair adorned with wildflowers. Ethan, finally free of his crutches, looked dashing in a navy suit. As they exchanged vows, Olivia felt her heart swell with love and hope for their future together. Little did she know, the challenges that lay ahead would test their love in ways she never could have imagined. The first few months of married life were a blissful whirlwind for Olivia and Ethan. They moved into Ethan's spacious loft apartment, which doubled as his art studio. Olivia marveled at the canvases that covered every available surface, each one showcasing Ethan's undeniable talent. "It's like living in an art gallery," she breathed, running her fingers along the edge of a particularly striking landscape. Ethan wrapped his arms around her from behind, nuzzling her neck. "And you, my love, are my masterpiece," he murmured. At first, Olivia was flattered by Ethan's constant desire to paint her. She'd pose for hours, draped in flowing fabrics or adorned with flowers, as Ethan captured her likeness on canvas. But as the weeks wore on, she began to feel restless. "Ethan, honey," she said one afternoon, stretching her cramped muscles after a long painting session, "don't you think it's time to try selling some of your work? We could use the extra income." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Sell? But these are my personal pieces, Olivia. They're not meant for public consumption. They're a testament to our love." Olivia bit her lip, unsure how to broach the subject of their dwindling finances. She was still working at the hospital and attending classes, but Ethan hadn't sold a single painting since they'd been married. As the weeks passed, the strain began to show. Olivia found herself working longer hours at the hospital, picking up extra shifts to make ends meet. Ethan, consumed by his art, barely seemed to notice. One evening, as Olivia trudged home after a particularly grueling shift, she found Ethan waiting for her, his eyes blazing with an intensity that made her uneasy. "We need to talk," he said, his voice tight with barely contained emotion. Olivia sank onto the couch, exhaustion seeping into her bones. "What is it, Ethan?" "I can't stand it anymore," he burst out. "Watching you come home, exhausted and smelling of hospital disinfectant. It's not right, Olivia. You're meant for greater things than cleaning up after sick people." Olivia felt a flicker of anger. "Ethan, we've talked about this. I'm working towards becoming a nurse. This job is helping me pay for school and gain experience." "But you're my wife now," Ethan argued. "You should be here with me, being my muse, inspiring my art, not wasting your beauty on menial labor." The argument raged for hours, with Ethan growing increasingly agitated. Finally, in a moment of frustrated desperation, he grabbed Olivia's hand and dragged her to the hospital. "We're here to tender your resignation," he announced to the startled nurse at the reception desk. Olivia, mortified and conflicted, could only watch in stunned silence as Ethan effectively ended her job. As they left the hospital, she felt as if a piece of her had been left behind, along with her dreams of becoming a nurse. Back at home, Ethan was elated, speaking animatedly about all the new paintings he would create, now that Olivia would be available full-time as his model. Olivia, however, felt a growing sense of unease. She loved Ethan, but was this really the life she wanted? As she lay awake that night, listening to Ethan's steady breathing beside her, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that she had somehow become trapped in a gilded cage of her own making. The weeks following Olivia's forced resignation were tense. She threw herself into her studies, determined to at least keep her dream of becoming a nurse alive. But without her job at the hospital, money was tighter than ever. One afternoon, as Olivia pored over job listings in the local paper, An ad caught her eye. Cleaner needed at city police station. Evening shifts available. Good pay. Her heart quickened. It wasn't ideal, but it was something, and the evening hours meant she could still attend her classes during the day. "Ethan," she called out, "I'm going out for a bit. I'll be back for dinner." Ethan, absorbed in his latest painting, merely grunted in acknowledgement. The police station was a hive of activity when Olivia arrived. She made her way to the front desk, where a gruff-looking sergeant eyed her skeptically. "Can I help you, miss?" Olivia straightened her spine. "I'm here about the cleaning position." After a brief interview with the head of maintenance, Olivia found herself with a new job. As she walked through the station, familiarizing herself with the layout, she felt a small spark of pride. This was her decision, her step towards independence. As she passed by the juvenile detention area, a small voice caught her attention. "Psst, lady, over here." Olivia turned to see a young boy, no more than 12, pressing his face against the bars of a holding cell. His wide eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and hope. "Please," he whispered. "You gotta help me. I don't belong here." Olivia glanced around, making sure no one was watching. "What's your name, sweetie?" she asked softly. "Max," the boy replied. "Max Cooper. Please, my brother's waiting for me at home. He needs me." Olivia's heart clenched. She knew she shouldn't get involved, but something about the boy's desperate plea tugged at her. "What happened, Max? Why are you here?" Max's eyes filled with tears. I stole some food from the corner store, but it wasn't for me, I swear, it was for my brother. He's hurt and we don't have any money for food." Olivia's mind raced. She knew what she was about to do was wrong, possibly illegal, but looking into Max's terrified eyes, she couldn't bring herself to walk away. "Okay, Max," she whispered. "I'm going to help you, but you have to promise me something. No more stealing, okay? There are other ways to get help." Max nodded vigorously. "I promise. Just please get me out of here." With a deep breath, Olivia put her plan into action. She created a distraction by accidentally knocking over a trash can, and in the ensuing chaos, she managed to slip Max out of the holding area. As they hurried out of the station, Olivia's heart pounded. What had she done? And more importantly, what was she going to do next? Olivia's mind whirled as she and Max made their way through the darkening streets. What she'd done was reckless, possibly criminal, but looking at the small, trembling boy beside her, she couldn't bring herself to regret it. "Where do you live, Max?" she asked softly. Max pointed down a side street. "Just a couple blocks that way, in the old brick building with the green door." As they approached the building, Olivia's breath caught in her throat. It was ancient, with peeling paint and crumbling brickwork. How could anyone live here? Max led her up a creaky staircase to a second-floor apartment. As he pushed open the door, calling out, "Noah, I'm home!" Olivia stepped into a world she never could have imagined. The apartment was small but surprisingly clean. What struck Olivia most, however, was the young man in the wheelchair by the window. He turned at the sound of Max's voice, relief washing over his face. "Max! Thank God! Where have you been? I was worried sick!" His eyes landed on Olivia, narrowing with suspicion. "Who's this?" Max rushed to his brother's side. "This is Olivia. She helped me, Noah. I got in trouble, but she got me out." Noah's gaze softened slightly as he looked at Olivia. "Thank you for bringing him home. But what kind of trouble?" Olivia sighed, sinking onto a worn sofa. "It's a long story, but first, can you tell me what happened to you?" "Max mentioned you were hurt." Noah's face darkened. "Work accident. I was installing an AC unit, fell from the second story. Boss says it was my fault for not using safety equipment, so no workers' comp. Now we're—" He trailed off, gesturing around the sparse apartment. Olivia's heart ached for the brothers. "Have you seen a doctor? That leg looks bad." Noah shook his head. "Can't afford it. We're barely scraping by as it is." In that moment, Olivia made a decision that would change all their lives. "I'm studying to be a nurse," she said. "Let me help. I can bring some supplies, check on your leg, and I can bring some groceries too." Max's eyes lit up. "Really? You'd do that for us?" Olivia nodded. a lump forming in her throat. Really, you guys shouldn't have to go through this alone. As she left the apartment that night, promising to return soon, Olivia felt a sense of purpose she hadn't experienced in months. These brothers needed her, and she was determined not to let them down. Over the next few weeks, Olivia fell into a new routine. She attended classes during the day, cleaned the police station in the evenings, and spent every spare moment with Noah and Max. She brought them groceries, helped Noah with his physical therapy, and tutored Max in his schoolwork. At home, however, things were growing increasingly tense. Ethan, consumed by his art, barely seemed to notice Olivia's frequent absences. When he did, his reactions oscillated between indifference and irritation. One evening, as Olivia rushed to leave for her shift at the station, Ethan finally confronted her. "Where are you always running off to?" he demanded, blocking her path to the door. "You're supposed to be here, Olivia. Being my muse, inspiring my work." Olivia felt a flare of anger. "I'm not just your muse, Ethan. I'm a person, with my own dreams and responsibilities." Ethan's face darkened. "Responsibilities? To who? Those boys you've been sneaking off to see?" Olivia gasped. "You've been following me?" "I had to," Ethan shouted. "You're my wife, but you're never here, always running off to play nurse to some cripple and his brat brother." The sound of Olivia's slap echoed through the apartment. "Don't you dare speak about them like that," she hissed. "They're good people who've been dealt a bad hand," Olivia continued, her voice shaking with anger. "And unlike you, they appreciate what I do for them." Ethan reeled back, his hand on his cheek where she'd slapped him. For a moment, hurt flashed in his eyes, quickly replaced by cold fury. "So that's it then? You choose them over your own husband?" Olivia's shoulders sagged. "It's not about choosing, Ethan. It's about being who I am. I want to help people. That's why I'm studying nursing. But you've never supported that dream. You just want me to be your living doll, posing for paintings that never sell." "My art is important," Ethan shouted. "You used to understand that. What happened to the woman I married?" "She woke up," Olivia replied softly. "I love you, Ethan, but I can't keep living like this. I need to be more than just your muse." With that, she grabbed her bag and left, leaving Ethan staring after her in stunned silence. As Olivia walked to the police station, tears streaming down her face, she couldn't shake the feeling that her marriage was crumbling around her. But beneath the pain, there was also a sense of relief. For the first time in months, she felt like she was finally being true to herself. Over the next few weeks, Olivia threw herself into her work and studies with renewed vigor. She spent more and more time with Noah and Max, finding solace in their company and the sense of purpose she felt when helping them. Noah's condition was improving slowly but steadily under Olivia's care. One evening, as she helped him with his physical therapy exercises, she caught him watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Olivia," Noah said softly, "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us." She smiled, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just glad I can help." Noah reached out, catching her hand in his. "It's more than that, and you know it. You've become important to us. To me." Olivia felt a flutter in her chest, a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time. "Noah, Before she could finish, Max burst into the room, excited about a good grade he'd received on a math test. The moment passed, but the feeling lingered, leaving Olivia confused and conflicted. That night, as she lay in bed beside a snoring Ethan, Olivia found herself thinking of Noah's kind eyes and gentle smile. Guilt gnawed at her. She was a married woman, for heaven's sake. But she couldn't deny the growing attraction she felt towards Noah, or the sense of belonging she experienced when she was with him and Max. Weeks turned into months, and the distance between Olivia and Ethan grew wider with each passing day. Ethan became increasingly moody and withdrawn, spending hours locked in his studio, emerging only to criticize Olivia for not being available to pose for him. One afternoon, Olivia came home early from her classes, hoping to surprise Ethan with a home-cooked meal and perhaps bridge the growing gap between them. As she opened the apartment door, she heard giggling coming from the studio. Heart pounding, Olivia crept towards the partially open door. What she saw inside shattered her world. Ethan was there, paintbrush in hand, standing before an easel. But it wasn't Olivia's golden hair and fair skin he was capturing on canvas. Instead, a voluptuous brunette lounged on the chaise lounge, draped in nothing but a sheer piece of fabric. "Ethan?" Olivia's voice cracked as she pushed the door open. Ethan whirled around, his face a mask of guilt and defiance. "Olivia, I can explain." The model sat up, clutching the fabric to her chest. "Who's this?" she asked, her voice tinged with annoyance. "I'm his wife," Olivia replied coldly. "Though I'm starting to wonder why." Ethan stepped towards her, hands outstretched. "Liv, please. This isn't what it looks like. Sophia is just a model. I needed inspiration, and you're never here anymore." Olivia laughed bitterly. "Inspiration? Is that what we're calling it now?" She turned to the model, Sophia. "You're welcome to him. I'm done." With that, Olivia stormed out of the studio and began throwing her belongings into a suitcase. Ethan followed, pleading and making excuses, but Olivia was beyond listening. As she zipped up her bag, she turned to face her husband one last time. "You know, Ethan, I've been feeling guilty for weeks about my growing feelings for Noah. But now I realize I have nothing to feel guilty about. You checked out of this marriage long before I did." Ethan's face contorted with rage. "Noah? That cripple you've been wasting your time on? You're leaving me for him?" Olivia shook her head, a sad smile on her face. "No, Ethan. I'm leaving you for me. Goodbye." With that, she walked out of the apartment and out of her marriage, feeling a strange mixture of grief and liberation. Olivia found herself standing outside Noah and Max's apartment, her suitcase at her feet. She hesitated for a moment before knocking, suddenly unsure of her decision. Max opened the door, his face lighting up when he saw her. "Olivia, you're early today. And why do you have a suitcase?" Noah wheeled himself to the door, concern etched on his face. "Olivia, what's wrong?" The dam broke, and Olivia burst into tears, explaining everything through her sobs. Max and Noah listened in stunned silence, exchanging worried glances. When she finished, Noah reached out and took her hand. "Olivia, you're always welcome here. Stay as long as you need." Max nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, you can have my room. I'll sleep on the couch." Olivia shook her head, wiping her eyes. "No, I couldn't put you out like that. The couch is fine for me." As they settled Olivia in, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Here, with Noah and Max, she felt at home in a way she never had with Ethan. Over the next few weeks, Olivia threw herself into her studies and her care for the brothers. Noah continued to improve, eventually graduating from his wheelchair to crutches. Max's grades soared under Olivia's tutoring. One evening, as Olivia sat on the fire escape, watching the sunset, Noah joined her. They sat in comfortable silence for a while before Noah spoke. "Olivia," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." She turned to him, her heart quickening at the intensity in his eyes. "I'm in love with you," Noah confessed. "I have been for a while now. I know the timing is terrible with everything you're going through, and I'll understand if you don't feel the same way. But I needed you to know." Olivia felt tears welling up in her eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. "Oh, Noah," she whispered, "I love you too." As they shared their first kiss, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, Olivia knew that this was where she was meant to be all along. 3 years later. Olivia stood in the hospital nursery, cradling her newborn daughter. Noah stood beside her, his arm around her waist, gazing in wonder at their child. "She's perfect," Noah murmured, pressing a kiss to Olivia's temple. Olivia smiled, leaning into her husband's embrace. "She is, and so is our life." In the 3 years since she'd left Ethan, Olivia's life had transformed. She'd completed her nursing degree with honors and was now working at the same hospital where she'd once been an orderly. Noah had found a new job as a safety inspector for construction sites, turning his accident into a passion for preventing others from suffering the same fate. And Max, now a teenager, was thriving in school and talking about following in Olivia's footsteps to become a nurse. As they left the hospital, their daughter securely fastened in her car seat, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. The pain, the struggles, the difficult choices, all of it had led her here, to this life filled with love, purpose, and joy. She squeezed Noah's hand as he drove, feeling a rush of gratitude for the twists of fate that had brought them together. Their love story might not have been conventional, but it was theirs, and it was perfect. As they pulled up to their modest but comfortable home, where Max was waiting to meet his new niece, Olivia knew that she had finally found where she truly belonged. This was her happily ever after. Not a fairy tale ending, but a real, beautifully imperfect life filled with love, family, and the satisfaction of following her dreams.